The Matrix franchise has a new movie, all in the attempt of rectifying the problems of the previous three. Lana Wachowski returns for this one. The other Wachowski sister does not. She's joined by David Mitchell and Alexander Hammond to write the film, and it picks up where the third movie left off, or actually it picks up 20 years. Actually, it picks up 60 years after the first movie left off. It'll make sense when you see it. I'm assuming since you're watching this review, you know what happens in the previous three movies, so me mentioning that Trinity dies at the end of the third film and Neo is blind is not a surprise to you. She does a great job of justifying why we're seeing those two characters in this film and why Neo can see. Is it because they're in the Matrix, or is it because of some other reason? You've probably figured out the reason why, because the movie is called The Matrix. Anyway, Lana Wachowski does attempt to solve a lot of the problems that people had with the third movie ending. And, of course, probably make a little cash in the meantime. No big deal, because she actually does a pretty good job of it. The movie picks up with a scene that's very reminiscent of the opening scene of the first film with Trinity fighting with the agents. This is intentional, and we actually see a couple new characters introduced watching that fight sequence. In this film, we also have a lot of other references to the first film, a lot of them in the form of memories or dreams that Neo is having. Or there's even a scene where he's in a room and we're seeing some stuff from the previous film. So there's a lot of rehashing what happened in the previous film, but it's done more in a callback way, in an intentional way. They really play upon the whole deja vu aspect of this film. There's even a cat called Deja Vu, a cat that we had seen in previous films. Probably not the same cat, but a black cat. They do it in a much better way than what the Star Wars franchise did with The Force Awakens, where they more or less just copied A New Hope and tried to act like it was a new film. In this, they do copy the first film in a lot of ways, but it's intentional, and it's basically made clear this is what we're doing versus, what, we're not copying the first film. So it's nice in that sense. We do see some nice fight sequences. This is a Matrix film, which is good. Not quite as many as you would think, but it's not the overblown, extravagant action film that we saw from the second and third films. It really does harken back to that first film. And let's be honest, Keanu Reeves is getting up there in years, and you can see he's moving a bit slower in the fight sequences. But it's all right. It actually still works. As you've seen from the poster and the trailer, we do have Morpheus back, but he's a little bit different. This time he's playing by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. Apologies if I mispronounced that. They basically have Morpheus in here, sort of. He's kind of a combination of Morpheus and another character. It'll make sense when you see the movie. And we also get Agent Smith back again, although this time he's being played by Jonathan Groff. This actually was a bit of a disappointment in the film. They did apparently try to get Hugo Weaving to reprise his role, but Hugo had a scheduling conflict and they just couldn't make it work. So in the end, they recast the role. They wrote it in a way that tries to justify it, but the reality is Hugo was so good in that character that it's hard to replace him. So Jonathan does a good performance, but it's just not the same. We also have Jessica Henwick, who plays Bugs. She is kind of our introduction into this new world of the Matrix, this world that takes place after the previous film ends. And of course, we have the ever great Neil Patrick Harris, who plays a character called the Analyst. I'm not going to give you a whole lot about him. Just wait and experience him when you watch the film. So like I said, it does start off a bit like the other ones. It's also a bit slower than the first film as well at introducing what's going on. It's a lot of setup, but it's done really nicely with a lot of nice story. Another thing that I really like about it is it looks like a Matrix movie. It clearly takes place in the same universe. The style, they don't throw a lot of like new styled CGI in. Think the Star Wars movies, right? I know I keep harping on them. Sorry, Star Wars lovers. I love the movies too. But you can definitely tell the difference between A New Hope and any of the films later on because of the CGI that they add that they didn't add in the first ones. This doesn't do that. She does a really good job of making it look the same, which is really nice. She does one thing. She gets rid of the phones. Remember how in the first three movies, they're always talking on the phones in order to get in contact with the people outside of the Matrix. They're jumping into the phone to get out. They get rid of all of that and they use a new method of getting in and out of the Matrix. I don't know if it works, but hey, whatever. I guess that's what they're going to use because let's be honest, you don't see a lot of like landline phones lying around anymore. So it'd probably be a bit harder for them to get in and out if they had to rely on that method. A couple things that I don't necessarily love about the film. It is a bit long. In running time, it's not really that much longer than the first film. They only add about 10 minutes. Not a huge amount of time added to it, but it does feel a lot longer for some reason. And maybe that's this new world that we live in where all of our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. Another thing that I don't know if really works for me is the slow motion stuff. Yeah, they did a lot of cool slow motion movement with the bullet effects and that kind of stuff from the first film. With this, there's a lot of fight sequences that have slow motion moments in it that just kind of draw them out, and I don't know if it really works. But other than that, overall, I think it's really a good addition to the series. Clearly, at the end, they set it up for a sequel. We don't know if there will be a sequel or not. The box office is generally the decider on that. So if you go see it and enough people do and they make enough money off of it, we'll definitely see another movie. They certainly set it up for one. Again, harking back to the ending of the first movie. Overall, I did like it. Obviously, I didn't love it as much as the first Matrix film, but let's be honest, nothing will ever live up to that first Matrix film. As a sequel, though, I do think it stands up, and I do think it's worth seeing. And let's see if they do make a couple more and how those turn out as well.